Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Dylan, did you know there are two types of lighting?
I did, because I listened to the show last week.
Did I talk about that last week?
I think you did.
Oh, wow. Well, I think I just mentioned it in brief. I don't think I broke it down as to what the two types of lighting are and what the advantages and the pros and cons of each are. But the Sunburn gaming engine gives you basically two types of lighting. Now, this isn't like point lights or ambient lights or something like that. I'm talking about the way that the engine deals with the lighting. And those two types of lighting are...
Static and dynamic.
Static and dynamic. You were paying attention.
Yes.
Wow. At least one person listened to the show.
You actually have to, I have to be off the show for that.
Was it a
actually
jealousy
happen.
thing? Was it like a jealousy thing with Dr. Zayas? Were you like, wow, fuck Dr. Zayas for taking my spot? Or...
No, why would it be? Why does it have to be that? I probably ought to listen to this because maybe something will come up that
that I'll have to deny later in tweets and no, I wasn't there.
Anyway. No, I meant this sort of question actually.
So dynamic lighting is the kind of the lighting that's calculated at runtime. Well, not kind of. It is the lighting that's calculated at runtime. It's the lighting you're used to, the lighting you're expected. And static lighting is basically baked for you. So you go into the Sunburn engine, you go into the nice, wonderful GUI tool set, and you place your lights, and you say, these lights are static. And then it does some math and does some crunches and figure out how the shadows will look based on all the objects. And then it bakes the light down to the textures. Essentially is what you end up with. So that it's not actually doing any real-time running lighting calculations. Minecraft, very popular game, actually does its lighting baked. So if you've ever been mining in Minecraft and you get real deep, you can see where it kind of glitches sometimes because you especially when you play with the TNT and a whole bunch of blocks change at once. You'll have some blocks that are either black, they have no face on them, or the shadowings aren't right, and then you place a block and everything fixes or something like that. Basically, because what it's doing is it's storing a light value on the texture to know how to render it instead of doing any kind of light casting, ray
frame
casting,
by frame.
Yeah, analysis of how the light should do. And you can place a lot of light sources that way with very, very minimal hit to CPU. It's a very efficient way of doing your lighting. Now, the drawback to this is that if you have objects in motion, if you have the player moving through there or something moving, if the lighting is baked on the texture, then it's not going to update with the item that goes across of it. Think if the player walked under a street lamp, okay? If the street lamp was static, then the player would not throw a shadow when they walked underneath it because it was calculated at the time that the player was not there. So you use a dynamic light. And Sunburn gives you the option to mark a couple of lights dynamic. So let's say you're doing a street and you have a bunch of lighting on the shop signs and things like that. You make all these static, you gain all that performance, and you make the street lamps dynamic so that when the player walks underneath, they throw a shadow. And you don't have to worry about the difference of math and calculating and the pre-rendering that goes on place and making all these different textures and maps. This can all be done for you by the Sunburn gaming engine. So get on top of your static and dynamic lights. Check out the Sunburn gaming engine. You can find out more information at synapsegaming.com. All right, welcome to the show. One of these shows I'll put her in charge of the audio because she loves to go over and press all the buttons on the amp.
Yep.
The amp that's not plugged in, of course.
Not plugged into anything.
She makes adjustments and knobs and
things
tweaks
go
it accordingly.
click and turn.
At some point, you should just plug in a guitar and see what it does.
See where it's set.
Yes.
Well, she's
That is rolling the dice.
It's clipping a little bit. We're just making sure we're staying under the red line. That's what we're doing. Now we found something else to mess with, so that's what we're gonna do. All right. Welcome everyone to the show. Dylan, you were out last week, so real quick catch up. How did the MomoCon go?
It's actually the first time I've been to this convention, although it's in the same spot or one of the hotels where they hold Dragon Con. So
this is in Atlanta.
Yeah. and it's a. I think this started at Georgia Tech or one of the other, like, it kind of grew out of one of their, like, events that was put on there. It went pretty well, and there were actually there was actually a game development panel there. There was, I want to say, a Photoshop panel that I went to. We ended up leaving on Sunday before it, but there was a Flash animation panel. There was making your own web series. It's actually, it's primarily an anime con, but I think it's kind of multi-genre.
Yeah, similar to Dragon Con. Yes,
much smaller, but yeah.
Much smaller, but yeah, as far as like, it's an everything con.
Yeah.
So, good, bad? Would you go back?
I would probably go back, yeah.
Yeah? Did you guys line up any interviews for Chainsaw Buffet?
No, we didn't. Actually, it was kind of funny because Charlie and I went down on Friday. John, who's the one who actually got the media badges, was going to come down on Saturday. So we get there and, like, apparently they gave us less media badges than they were supposed to. They never told us that, they limited it, so like there was chaos just getting that all worked out there, and I don't even know that we didn't, it's our first year there, we didn't know who to talk to about that, so although what was funny was I think Wendy Lee was there, who's the voice of Faye in Cowboy Bebop.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't stand in line for that because the lines were insane, but I don't think she's been at any conventions, in this area. And they also had a couple of voice actors from Archer.
Oh, wait, did they have...
Did they have the lady?
No, that's Alicia Tyler.
I don't think it was her.
A very tall black woman.
No.
Okay. And then, but did they have, John Benjamin, right?
No.
Is that his name?
No. Like, these were people who've been on it. I don't think these
fuck
were
that. I don't want the
ones
B-list. Like, if you had Alicia Tyler or John Benjamin...
Or Pam.
Now, hold on. One of the people who was
I ain't
there
gonna shit about Pam.
was Lucky Yates, who actually shows up on several episodes of Good Eats.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, which was also,
Well, that kind of makes sense, though, because Good Eats was filmed in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So, that's there. Well, that actually kind of sucks. And I got a whole bunch of B-listers from Archer. That's who gives a shit. This weekend here in Knoxville, we've got a Pelicon, which, this is the first year that they've done this? Is this
I want to say it's the second, because I remember hearing about it
make
yesterday.
it a second, because if this is their second year and it's this poorly organized,
Then
that is
that's
really
sad.
sad.
We haven't seen what it's like yet, so
I can tell you, like,
I've been to I know
the website is horrible. Like, there's no information on the website. Is it Flash? I thought it was HTML. I thought it was bad HTML, but maybe it was Flash.
Pretty sure it is Flash, because I've got Flash Block in my browser.
Oh, okay.
And it's too much animation for, like, the information you want to get at.
Well, I didn't have, like, animation or anything going on. That wasn't it. It just looked like a whole bunch of jQuery sliders and stuff like that on the site. There was no content. There was no information. There was no schedule of events. I was going there and I'm like...
You could download the schedule in Excel.
I saw that. I didn't fucking click that. I'm not going to download a random Excel document. Do they not know about Excel and macro viruses and shit? And it was even a modern Excel document. It was an XLS, so it was a old, 2005 or whatever Excel.
Doesn't have that magic X on the end.
It didn't. So I even trust it even less, because that was like highly exploitable to VB script attacks. I don't trust their website at all. They don't have shit on the Facebook page. The Twitter account has like 4 tweets, 2 of which are from May.
Yeah, I think, especially with Twitter there, I kind of wonder if they've fallen prey to the idea of when you're marketing something, you have to be on every social network ever. instead of the ones that you actually use.
Now, Chaos Soft Games, the guys that did Evil Quest that we had, we did some stuff on the site, some videos on the site of them. They're going to be giving a panel, and that's going to be at noon Sunday. So I think that's when I'm going to kind of show up is just pay the $10. You know, that's the other thing. They didn't even have on the site. Are they going to be able to take a credit card?
I do not know. They
Had
didn't have
no information of how to pay. They just had like, you know, it's going to be like this much this day and this much this day, and it's like credit card, cash, you know, check. So I'll show up, I guess. I mean, that's.
I may go by tomorrow, maybe Sunday, depending on what I have going on.
Have they fucking heard of Eventbrite, for Christ's sake? I mean,
again, this is something that is put on by one of the clubs at the college. So my guess is it's college
it's a
students.
sad, accurate commentary of the state of higher education in the United States, I believe. That nobody in this entire group went, I've seen this Eventbrite thing on the internet, because I Googled how to run an event, and it came back.
I have done better.
Or maybe it's just that particular college.
I'm not a go get 'em person.
It could just be that particular college. Better. I would not, having done code stock at Pellissippi, I would accept that answer as well. I'm on record already with my thoughts on Pellissippi and conferences, so this is not breaking ground here. Let's just say that Pellissippi is a state government institution, and it is run like any government institution you would expect. Even if you're running a conference that is bringing in like $13,000, $17,000, while Codestock was there for a weekend, for a fucking weekend, it's still like being at the goddamn DMV. You know, it's still like, you know, trying to get people to call you back, and you know, it's like, well, that system is down. Yeah. So I didn't reserve any fucking rooms for your conference because on Tuesday the system was down, and it's not my job to check Wednesday. You know?
And every single time there was a motorcycle driving course. Every single time.
I think these guys have the advantage of, like, if they're students, they can go, you know, every day go by the office and go, hey, what's up? You know?
So, I don't know what it'll be, but I kind of want to hang out with the Chaos Soft guys, go to their panel, hear what they have to say, and then maybe if they've got time to hang out, you know. Because, you know, we hung out with them, but it was kind of their launch thing, and I didn't have a good time just to, like, talk shop with them and talk local Knoxville type game dev and what's going on in our area.
Incidentally, during the game development panel at MomoCon, apparently there's like a pretty big game dev scene in Atlanta, and there's.
I would hope the hell there was.
Well, yeah, but like, just like surprising considering, like, I mean, I know Atlanta is much bigger than Knoxville, but you know. It's surprising how, because I want to say, like, the guy who did the panel was someone who had worked for White Wolf, and I think he'd also worked on Fading Suns. I can't remember if it was the computer game or the role-playing game, but, you know, actually some recognizable game names. And but, incidentally, there's a computer gaming like industry convention in October called SiegeCon.
Yes,
he talked about
that I've heard of. Speaking of upcoming conferences, there's a conference in Louisville, Kentucky, put on by Cambridge, like the London. Like I don't understand. Dude, they're getting ripped off. All right, I'm just saying, like, if you're, you know, fucking Cambridge putting on an event, and we're like, yeah, we'll give you Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, somebody sold somebody a bridge or something. I don't understand that one. But it's called the Sea Games Conference, and it's in its 17th year, and I will be giving the keynote address. How that came about, a lot of braggadocio and being in the right place at the right time.
And no one else wanting to take it?
No, I don't know if there's no one else wanting to take it. I think just kind of like we have to have a keynote speaker up by now, and maybe I think they had a cancellation or something going on.
Okay.
And they're a con that has a keynote speaker every day. So, like, I think I'm doing the first day. I don't know if I'm opening or if I'm closing or where that fits in. Like the next guy is talking about like parallel programming and GPUs of the modern, yeah, whatever. I get lost in his abstract, you know. Like his abstract goes over my head. But you know, I want to give that I want to give a talk on what is fun and the theory of fun. Hey, you're gonna have to go to mommy now. All right, you're making too much noise. No, come on.
Come over here.
To mommy. Go to mommy.
Come here. Come here, baby girl. Yes.
Go on.
Give Daddy a night-night kiss and then come over here.
You go night-night? Okay. So, yeah, I will be up there speaking. And then, of course, DevLink is in August. So the C Games conference is at the end of June.
Nope.
The DevLink conference is in the beginning of August. DevLink, I'll probably be speaking at. The speakers haven't been announced yet, but I want to put a call out to anyone who listens to this podcast that is interested in speaking to submit now to DevLink. I was talking with the conference organizer of DevLink, who, by the way, is the same man that inspired me to put on Codestock. Not only inspired, but assisted me getting up and running. Codestock is a developers conference that I put on that will be mid-June. I think C Games is at the end of July. I think I got a lot more time between that.
I actually remember looking at like registering for it. Like, I should go to that, you know, since you're speaking.
I can't figure out. It's a whole bunch of academic. I have no idea what you would pay non-academic if you're not an IEEE member.
It's an academic conference, so I think you kind of pay a premium because you may be submitting something, and you know.
Yeah, well, like it doesn't say call for talks or sessions. It says like call for your papers.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be industry meeting with the academics. Is the point of the conference. So. I don't know. I'll come back and I'll check it out and I'll have an opinion as to how well industry was represented. Although I haven't been to many industry game conferences yet. So the DevLink conference, Codestock, our call for speakers is already closed, but we'll have some game talks as we always do.
Always open spaces.
The DevLink, talking with the organizer there. And I was discussing, you know, the keynote and some of the game sessions, because I like to send them kind of a heads up, because it's like, I'm not submitting the normal type stuff, and I just want to let them know, like, hey, if you just, like, don't want this at the conference at all, that's fine. And he was actually the other way with it, such like, you know, if we can get enough people, we'll make game development a track at DevLink. So if we can get a bunch of, game developers to speak at DevLink, which is in Chattanooga, August 7th through the 9th?
I believe so.
That sounds about right. Roughly there. Sometime in that range. First week of August.
Yeah, it's the same weekend as Labor Day, Labor Day, I think.
Yeah, not Memorial Day, because that's going to be Dragon Con, which is usually like September, right?
No, I think it is the same weekend as Dragon Con, because I was looking at that and like, well, I've already got my ticket for Dragon Con, so... and hotel room, so...
this is getting worse by the moment. But anyway, if we can get a bunch of people to submit to that, I'll post and blog around and try to pass around, you know, some contacts and all that. That'd be cool to have a game track in... now, this is hosted in Chattanooga.
Oh.
Also, I like the idea of that if that happens, that tells me whether or not we can have a game development conference in Knoxville, whether in a few years when... things settle down and I feel like, all right, I could start focusing on building a conference. I would like to have a more games-focused conference. And maybe I'll come from the heavy developer side, content creator side, and reach out to the other type, Awa, Pelican, Momo, DragonCon-ish type stuff, you know what I mean? Rather than coming at it from the fandom side in, you know, where like these are basically fan conferences. And then they have a few deeper panels. Yeah. But I would much rather come at it from the content creators and developers and the designers side. And then maybe we reach out and have some fandom type stuff for the crossover. Would be the angle that would interest me more.
Yeah, I think that would... I mean, the fandom angle gets done quite a bit.
And it does. And that's a thing, too. I mean, just like being an indie. Like, you know, looking around and going, like, why am I different? What, you know, and we did this with Codestock. Like, why should we have Codestock? What are we going to do differently that justifies this here? And then just one more thing to pump on Code Stock. I think you got about a week left of the early bird. Or maybe a couple weeks left on the early bird. It might be a couple weeks left on the early bird, because I don't expire that April 1st. Like,
Ever.
that would just be bad. Bad taste.
Yes.
So that, you can sign up for that, which is $60 now. It's a 2-day conference. It's in Knoxville, Tennessee. The hotel is right across the street from the conference. We're working on a room rate on the hotel. It's going to be like $95 to stay in the hotel. So if you travel from out of town, like, you're within walking distance of everything. So you don't even have to get in the car. It's a strange town, but you can walk everywhere, walk to great restaurants, nightlife, hanging out. Of course, we'll have a lot of things going on around the conference thing as well. And we've done a really good job, I'm proud to say, of making the social component of CodeSock as important as the technical content, you know, that you can meet up with people and exchange ideas and make new contacts and friends, as much as attend great sessions. So the session should be announced sometime next week. The voting wraps up on that Sunday night. I think Monday is when I can start looking at the vote totals and start picking sessions, and I'll get that up next week. I'll go through the cutoff list and that. So that's the con beat. That's the con moment. The con summary of that's our con
Stuff that's
here
happening.
yeah.
That's our con conversation. And DevLink is August 29th through 31st.
Oh, so it's the end of August.
Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense that it would be DragonCon now.
No,
DragonCon wouldn't be the beginning of August.
No, but when I get confused between Memorial Day and Labor Day, like, Memorial Day is in spring. Like, it's coming up in a few months, I think, and Labor Day is in September.
I work at a
for some
company that
reason-
doesn't celebrate any holiday, so I would.
You just don't even care.
No,
like,
I don't. I don't.
Oh,
give
there was
shit.
a day.
Hey, you could just, like, chain back to back. DragonCon is
I work at a company that
until
got.
August 31st.
It's probably outtake shit, but I work at a company that got totally destroyed by South Park. Did you see this South Park episode?
No.
Go watch the latest South Park episode.
Targeted your company specifically?
Correct.
Yeah. You
gotta explain this just a tiny bit.
They went after jewelry television companies. I mean, they call it like Jewelry and Gemstones, but it's written like J&G, and it looks like JTV, and it's our graphics layout and everything.
I've got to watch this.
It's got the turntable. I mean, it's the
Well, other places did that. Like, this is not. Is it like it's also hitting QVC and home shopping?
No,
and
QVC
no,
changed up
it's
their layout.
explicitly to jewelry selling online.
Are there any other channels that
There
do
are a couple others, but as far as I know, we're the only nationwide ones. Like, some of them are region, they're not in all places.
And the ones that I've looked at, they look a little bit
But it doesn't matter.
a
The
little bit
graphics,
classier.
the graphics, where the price is put, like maybe they're lampooning them generally, but the one that they sat down to study, that's us. That's us. And it's brutal. It's as brutal. You notice how South Park, like, every time you think South Park is like, wow, that was brutal, and you watch the next one, like, whoa. Okay.
I actually don't really watch South Park, so I have no idea.
They can go further than I thought they could go, right? They can find an edge to push or all that. So, hopefully everybody at the company that hires up understand the Streisand effect. Just leave it the fuck alone. Just ignore it and go on.
It is free advertisement. How about that?
Anyway, yeah, I don't think our demographic watches South Park. So there's no harm unless we make it so, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, at least it wasn't Blood Diamond.
What do you mean, like
The movie Blood Diamond.
At least.
Well, I mean,
What?
Blood Diamond basically explains how, like, the stones that are mined are done in these horrible, war-torn countries.
Are you saying that movie
run by mafia?
affected it worse than you expect South Park to? Because someone, like, are you saying...
Yeah, I mean,
like,
Blood Diamond has... Basically, Blood Diamond's like, you know, people died for you to have a diamond. Like, kids are exploited.
Children
There's
died.
gangsters in charge of all this stuff.
people watch the movie and suddenly they get, and this is going to sound cynical, they get an attack of conscience for, like, 6 months or something and stop, you know,
Yeah,
buying it,
yes.
and they go back to
go look...
whatever they were doing.
Oh, you watch Hulu?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
you've seen the ads for helping the kids in Tanzania, right? They run those
Yes.
frequently.
Tanzanite.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Our number one stone is Tanzanite. We are the Tanzanite channel, all right? So,
There you go.
there we go. All right. Probably
It's
shouldn't have
almost
said that.
like the jungle or whatever it was to the meatpacking industry.
Yes. Anyway, before I do more shit to get me fired from my day job, what games have you been playing lately?
Oh,
Anything?
actually nothing.
Nothing? Not even Skyrim? We didn't...
No.
No? Sicily?
There was a game I wanted to play, but I found out as the day came out that it was for the Windows Phone 7 and not for the actual game platform that I could get it on.
What game was this?
This was Gerbil Physics. They're like, Gerbil Physics is coming out. And then in the email, they're like, yeah, we got a new game coming out. And so you visit the website and all that. And I didn't do that beforehand. I was just like, ooh, Gerbil Physics. I can get it and buy it and give them
All
money.
phone platforms are the same?
And then they're like, oh no, it's actually for the phone. And guess which phone is for? Not the one you have.
Not the one the world has. The Gerbil Physics 1 and 2 we actually covered in our second ever episode. Was Gerbil Physics. We did puzzle games. We did dual stick shooters, and then we did puzzle games,
yeah.
and we ended up covering 1 and 2. They were both good, and I may have even done a video review on
We
those.
did.
I want to say you did. I don't think I ever played them, but I remember you, like...
Well, I know we did on the show. I don't know if they did a standalone video review on Gerbil Physics, but we covered a lot of that, so it was a good game. And yeah, I saw the same thing. I saw the announcement, and I guess I read the text more than Cicely did because I realized immediately it was for Windows Phone 7 and not iPhone. I was like, oh, that's a shame. I would like to play Gerbil Physics, on a mobile device because it was a good game. It's a good game. That'd be fun to play mobile. Maybe they'll get it to something like Unity or something.
I felt so betrayed. I went back and reread the emails. So I was like, no, you don't say it's for Windows Phone until you get off of this email. I hate you.
that would be cool if you're for iOS or Android, but no, Windows Phone 7, you need to announce that crap up front.
I checked out Draw Something, which is a game that boggles my mind. Because, so the idea is like words with friends. Okay, so this is like Pictionary with friends.
Right.
Right? But in Pictionary, like, you're on the same team. Like, I'm drawing the word and you're trying to guess. So the way it works is you pick from one of 3 words, right? Each in increasing difficulty. And you pick one of the words, and then you get basically unlimited time to draw it, and then the other person kind of watches you draw, so like they see you erase and everything.
Is it asynchronous where you
it's
can...
asynchronous,
Okay,
so
so
like when
it just records what you do.
They records what I did, they get their little message, they play it back, watch me draw it, and then it's kind of like Boggle, because you have a set of letters at the bottom, and like, 4 tiles, and you realize, oh, it's shoe, because that's what I can spell at the bottom. So it kind of guides you to it. And I heard somebody describe this, and I was like, I don't understand this. This is on the internet. This just chat roulette all over again. This just seems like if you hit random on this, you're going to get a bunch of penis. That's what's going to be drawn on this. Plus, what's to stop somebody from just writing the word? So, as I've been playing, and I don't know anybody else on there, I've just been hitting random game, and, first I had the problem of, like, getting somebody to ever, like, okay, random game, found Dave, waiting on Dave to move. It's like, their turn first, not mine. And it goes a day, and Dave never fucking moves, or, like, my turn first, and we're waiting on Susie, and then Susie never responds, I
imagine this takes more, like, it's not just something you can pick up, do a couple moves, put it back down. Like, it requires a little bit of thinking. It's kind of a task switch. It does, because
you have to, like, figure out, like, how am I going to draw this? And sometimes they'll get, like, oddly specific. Like, I got, one of my 3rd level tier words was actually Metroid. Which I drew the little Metroid, and I drew Samus on a little ball, and I, drew a little blue, because it kind of encourages you, because you have unlimited time to, like, sketch out the whole scene. You're not trying to go for time, like Pictionary, so you overdraft it. It gives you, like, a couple different colors. There's upsells for if you want more than 4 colors. It gives you, like, a couple different pen widths that you can use, and you got an eraser, of course. Like I said, they see you drawing it, so you could actually use that to draw something, erase it, and that be part of the clue.
Can you clear it out and restart if you just, like, get too far afield?
I don't know if you reset, if they'll see you hit reset or not. I think they might see you do
reset.
everything.
Okay.
Which, yeah. I think there was a reset, yeah. But, so the few people that I did get in would write the fucking word on the thing. Like, they would draw out the shoe, and then wrote the word shoe underneath it.
So...
And then, of course, like, I started, like, going back because they see me draw.
Yeah.
And they see me erase. So I would write on there, it's called draw, underline, 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 not write the word. Erase that, and then I would draw it. And of course, inevitably, every time I would get back, somebody going, fuck you. And then they would draw their picture, but then quit the game.
So what's the hook? Like what's the mechanic? How do you win?
I don't know, because all my games have ended with that scenario of, like, it's called draw, not write, you cheating bastard, with no fun in this whatsoever, and they're going back with, like, shove it up your ass and quitting the game, you know? But it's like, I don't want to play with them, you know? That's...
Never underestimate the ability of the internet, and by the internet I mean humanity, to ruin everything good.
Well, you know, the internet is almost like the truth of humanity, right?
Yes.
It's like, it's unfiltered because nobody's watching you. So you do what you really want to do in moments where, like, if people were watching you, society would restrain you, you know?
Yes.
Just the societal pressure of, like, you know, yeah, I was cheating. You're right. I shouldn't cheat, you know? And where's the fun in that? I wish there was, like, some way of, like, blackballing accounts or something. Now, I did start to read, like,
I wonder if you get, like,
the game got bought by Zynga.
Okay.
In one of the little farm games that I play, they created an entire new series of dragons called the Metal Dragons, and I finally have enough money to buy the Metal Shrine, and one of these it's described a famous metal dragon who was helped search for mineral veins inside dark caverns, signaling what he found using his unique wub 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 cry and pounding out a rhythm with his tail. Over the years, Slamek's rhythms and voice were recreated in magical minstrels to inform a music dubbed tail step.
I thought that was something from Chad. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I can see, like, the regret in your eye of, like, I didn't mean this to be breaking news. We now return to your regularly scheduled GameMarx podcast, you know?
It was dubstep, therefore...
It was dubstep. It did come in at the end. It did get a tangential relation, at the end. Yeah, so, on the draw something, like, it was bought by Zynga, I guess, because it blew up overnight, and, you know, I think Zynga's sweating shit right now, because, the employees who held stock are getting ready to get out of their no trade period. Like when the company goes IPO, like you kind of get frozen, and then, you know, over time, depending on how significant you are to the company, when you can start selling your shares, and like a lot of the employees, especially lower ones, will become unfrozen and they can sell their shares. And I think they're kind of sweating that there's going to be like this exodus out the door of like cash out and fuck you guys, we're gone. Although there's been EA employees leaving EA for Zynga.
That seems weird.
So, like, how fucked up is shit at EA right now?
Like, I imagine my perception is that Zynga is more evil than EA, but that's just me.
Yeah. I don't know. So, a lot of people, I guess, have quit playing. I actually read a friend's post, a whole blog post, and basically it was like, yeah, I'm not supporting Zynga. Like, they're assholes, and I like Draw with Friends, but I'm not going to play a Zynga game, you know? And, you know, and it's a shame. It's like, this is a good game, but, like, what they do in their business practices, you know, like, maybe this is just internet outrage or whatever, but, and that might be why I like the quality of gameplay. Like, I found about it as I heard about Zynga buying them, so I kind of came a little late to this, although it kind of blew up overnight.
Actually, yeah, I mean, I've thought about getting into it since I think they have clients for Android and
web, I think they do.
I was kind of like, I don't know, like, I don't get what it's about, so...
And Anyway, let's get some news.
Although, admittedly, like if this person wrote a blog post, you know, didn't go off on them and just stopped playing, like that's how internet outrage should work. Like, make the decision, do it, and don't make a big deal out of it. Past that.
In the news this week, so we got GameStop basically says they're not going to kill used game sales in the next generation of consoles. And basically their article goes on to be like, it's not popular for them to admit it, they need us. Because the number one thing done with trade-ins is buying new games. And I thought that was interesting because there's a side of the argument the industry is not being genuine about.
When you say trade-ins, you mean trade-in consoles or trade-in...
No, trade-in games. So like Gamer brings their games and they trade them in. They are not... the number one thing that people do with their trading credit is turn around and buy a new game.
Okay.
So like...
Like not a used game, they buy a new
new game. Like the reason people are trading in is like, I want to play Skyrim, here's my shitty DAOC, Dragon Age 2, you know.
I like that that's your example. Like,
I've written off Dragon Age 2, by the way. I'm like, alright, fuck it, I'm not doing it. I'm out. By the way, Internet, it's been fucking hard to avoid information about Mass Effect 3. Jesus Christ, let it go. I like... all that you know what I'm talking about, like with people
the
like
ending.
Oh my god, we're gonna sue them. Like, what the fuck, you know? And like, so just the thing is,
have not played this damn game yet.
The thing is, like,
spoiler alert: people have a sense of entitlement.
Well, it doesn't matter. All the articles keep popping up, and like more and more of them are, and the comics coming out about them. You read a little bit, and you're like, oh shit, was that a little hint of like an ending?
Did someone actually say they were gonna sue them?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who?
I don't know. They went and they contacted the Better Business Bureau and they went and all this and they set up this like thing for.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just out of hand. I hope that there's shit that you can actually do in the U.S. that is so frivolous it can come back to bite you in the ass. And I hope that happens.
Yeah, seriously.
And I hope BioWare just sits there with two middle fingers and says, "Fuck you guys," because if BioWare caves to this shit, if BioWare does some retconning. Fuck BioWare. You have no artistic integrity. That's my opinion on this. I don't care whether I like the ending or I hate the ending. If that's what you wanted, if that was your artistic vision, if that's what you guys got in the room and said, yes, this is the ending we want to present, then that's the ending I want to play. I don't want to play the ending as done by a straw poll on fucking Facebook.
Well, I'm assuming that it's not, I'm assuming that it's not a cliffhanger. I'm assuming that they actually end it here.
Jim and chat was saying that they seem to have caved. What I've seen so far, and I'm trying not to fucking read, because I don't want to fucking be spoiled, but I'll also be fucking pissed if by the time that I get to play it, because I gotta wait for my birthday, because it may be a birthday gift, and I'm already an asshole to shop for. Cicely's already gone once this week over to my mom's house to strategize on my birthday, and I know that's what she did, because she's a terrible-ass liar. And then also, my parents, the next morning, bought me some Kindle digital books, and they probably wouldn't have figured out how to get to my gift list without assistance.
I did give them assistance on that.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you know, there we go. So, yeah, I'll be reading the one of the game design books that was on my wish list, so I'll talk about that. The one that was the toolbox, the game designer's toolbox or whatever. I got that on my Kindle. Right now I'm reading The Hunger Games, so I might finish The Hunger Games first. I finished Neil deGrasse Tyson, Go to Space. It was fucking awesome, you know, and then I was like, oh, you know, Hunger Games was a free book for Amazon Prime members. So I was like, really? Well, that's coming out as a movie. Might not hurt to read the book and maybe go see the movie. It's been a while since I've read the book, then gone to some movie like that, so. Anyway, so I digress. So it seems like what BioWare is going to do is, explain through their DLC the ending, maybe like shore up some details. Like, okay, if that's what you do, fine, but don't change any of the events or things. If there's like some patch that comes out and like I can't get the ending that shipped on disc because there was a patch and it was like, you know, Xbox is like, hey, you want fucking achievements, you're gonna patch this shit. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, right?
Play it through and then patch it. Like,
Now I'm going to play like 7 times through the final Mass Effect.
No. Play it once. Play it once unpatched, then play it patched from like the last save point.
Yeah. This is one I'll try to save my way through. I don't know. Maybe I'll play it through. Giant Bomb, who is generally the ones that I trust the most. Jeff Gerstmann is disappointed in this game. As the ending to the series, it feels overall, like, forget the ending. It feels rushed. It feels like this is a game that they had less than 18 months to produce. Maybe they had 12 months to really work on it, getting the QA and all that. Plus, making all the media blitzes and all the demo releases and all that, and it shows. Plus, they wasted all this time with this multiplayer, which I don't give a fuck about multiplayer, no matter how good it is in Mass Effect. That's not why I'm buying Mass Effect, damn it. I'll buy Gears of War, and you can horde mode Gears of War, and it'd be great. Because that's where that belongs, you know? But to put research on there...
Yeah, an RPG just... And I know that's ironic to say that with something like Diablo or WoW, but you just get, like... The world feels much bigger because you have more control over it than if you're trying to, you know...
I listened to IGN Game Scoop, and the title of the one that I'm catching back up on is, Has Mass Effect Sold Out? And I'm just like... Oh, because they're pretty good about not talking about anything. They'll allude to stuff without talking about it directly, and they're just like, the 2 people who have played it are not as enthused about it as they could be.
The ruling on the DLC also seems to be you need the DLC. The
day one stuff?
The day one stuff. Now, Jeff Gerstmann played through the game. It wasn't available.
When they say you need, what do you mean you need? Like, you need it to understand the ending? You need it because it's quality?
Context. Yeah, he's context for so much shit. I mean, you're playing with one of the race that was wiped out before the Reapers came. And, like, so he's 50,000 years old and has context of the last invasion and all this shit going on. And the guys that are playing the game through with him, like, I don't know how you would not have him. Just information is so critical. I'm fine with giving them their $10. Like, I understand the way that DLC works, you know? You gotta get your game in. You gotta get it in 3 months. You have these guys. You could either move them on to the next project, or you could keep them working on the game, crank out DLC. I'm not so big on that. News item. What I'm not as keen on, there's more stuff in there, Street Fighter versus Tekken DLC. So, basically all that DLC was on disc, which means it probably went through certification. And hackers figured out how to just unlock all that content that's on your disc. And now Capcom's basically trying to work with Microsoft to ban consoles and users who unlock the DLC that's not downloaded but actually on disc. And that's the kind of DLC that's pissing people off.
Yes. Although, for a fighting game, because I talked to John about this, and, you know, he actually knows someone that he plays a lot of fighting games with that has this unlocked. So he's played with the characters. And I think the idea is that if you play with this online, instead of having to download this huge chunk of DLC, you know, whether you buy it or not, because, you know, the person you're playing against may have these characters, it's just on disc, it's already there. You know.
Right, instead of them issuing like some kind of patch. Yeah. But that's really kind of what they should do. You know,
yeah.
Or the art assets are on DLC, and the character moves or whatever get downloaded or something, you know, like, I don't know, but just the fact that it's all there means it probably went to certification, because you're not supposed to screw the ESRB over and have hidden content that you unlock later. So Microsoft probably play tested it all, and that kind of then just like, okay, so that was done parts of the game that you then drew an arbitrary line through and said, we'll release that later. And also because they're being dicks about it of like, we're going to make that DLC available in 12 months or whatever, you know, it's coming out. And whereas like the Mass Effect 3, it's day one DLC. You know, it's the argument of like day one DLC. And
to me, I look at that and say, in both cases, there are reasons for the way they did it. So
I understand their reasons, but I disagree with them. I think they could have made it. This would be one time where you'd like, I want to play with people who are not super good at this versus I want to play with people who are tournament ready. And you buy two different versions. The tournament ready costs the $65 or whatever, or maybe even bump it up. He's like, if you're tournament ready, this is the one you buy. And if you're not tournament ready, buy this one and play with everybody else. You won't mix, so you won't have some asshole unless you decide to buy the not tournament edition version too.
Although I will bet that in 12 months, based on getting this out in the wild and letting people play with it, and just the base characters, like those characters will be patched because they'll find out new ways to balance the existing characters. So,
Probably.
But like I understand why this is happening, and honestly, the game, like big game companies, probably doing worse things to screw you over than the DLC. So,
yeah. That's different. One seems to be a genuine artifact of the cumbersome certification process for a console game, and it's like, what else can we do? Well, we can give you more content, but it has to be DLC, and it's Microsoft's rules that it has to be charged. No free DLC is allowed on Microsoft systems.
Right.
Versus greedy fucks finding a way to exploit another dollar out of gamers, so. And the companies behind it also have reputations those ways as well. Whereas, BioWare's pretty good about here's these content-rich, good standalone DLC, things like that. And the Capcom has a history of this kind of shit, so. Speaking of shit and Xbox Live, is Zynga coming to Xbox Live? So.
God, I hope not.
There was a conference or interview or something, basically, where Zynga's CEO said something about Xbox Live and being on that, and it was kind of like, wait, are you talking hypothetical futures? Or are you working on something?
Are they on PSN?
I don't think so.
It's just Xbox Live.
Yeah.
All things considered, I imagine that, at least from Microsoft's point of view, it would be perceived as like the first person to snap this up, like the first console to snap Zynga up.
Yeah.
Has an advantage, but, that's in the same context of people who play 100 Facebook games.
Now, at the same time, I don't know how open Microsoft is going to be to some of the things like Zynga likes to work. Like I'm sure Zynga's going to want a lot of information going back to their servers. Microsoft do that. They're going to run their own kind of custom stuff, link with the web type stuff, like across systems. And Facebook is on iOS. Are they going to really say like the Facebook, the Farmville you play on Facebook and iOS is not the Farmville in Xbox?
I don't know that they can do that.
I don't know if they can do that to the gamers and be successful, but I don't have an instance where they've allowed that.
Well, yeah, but no, my point is, if they just target it, it's kind of like the issue of puzzle games on Xbox. Like, the crowd who plays Xbox, probably not the same crowd who plays Farmville on Facebook.
Yeah, that's probably true. But I think with their Kinect thing, they're wanting to track that casual gamer over. But they are willing to change some things. A news article here basically talking about the XBLA coming up, and Minecraft has a date, May 9th. And Minecraft, for an XBLA title, is going to be $20, not the normal $15. And I think that's a first.
That's interesting. Because
That
I
is
know
interesting.
people will pay it, but still.
I think hearing that, though, is going to keep the Xbox Live indie game Minecraft clones. They probably breathed a little collective sigh of relief. Like, when Minecraft is $15 and then when sales hit and they're dropped down to 10 or whatever, like that. Yeah, it's like, why would you pay $5 for the crappy version? Just pay the $10 to get the full one,
Yeah.
Get the real thing. I still don't know if Minecraft is going to work on the Xbox and connect to PC servers.
Somehow I doubt it.
I really do doubt it. I don't see that happening. But I see that as really critical for Minecraft's success. Like if Minecraft,
Yeah, they're in the same position as Zynga in that
if
case.
Microsoft does not allow Minecraft to connect to the PC custom servers that Minecraft fans love, Microsoft's going to catch a lot of flack of their platform's not ready for the digital age. Like those articles will be written.
But you can't deal with. Now, I don't know how. I want to say some of the mods, like you have to have them on the server and on the client. So
Yeah, those I can see.
that cuts that out.
You got to be running a vanilla server.
You know, they'll have to keep the 360 version up to date with the PC version, which
Microsoft would.
And if it's truly $40K to Mojang to issue a patch, at some point they don't fucking bother, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I see Minecraft as a backfire for them. Like they're wanting to have this big, like, look, we have Minecraft. We have this awesome title. You know, it's really popular. It was supposed to be out Christmas. Connect support's not going to ship with it. It's going to be patched in later. So, yeah, it's like missing on a lot of marks of what they wanted. And I don't know. I kind of think it's just going to make them look bad instead of making them look good. Like, hey, you know, we're awesome. We have this Minecraft thing of like, you know, you're just going to highlight all the pain points of your closed system.
You're going to make those clones look very, very innovative.
Innovative.
Let's talk indie games here. Xbox Live indie games while Cicely makes up more words.
She just made up a pronunciation. It's not the same thing.
I did not make that up. I've been corrected by English majors.
It reminds me on tested.com.
Oh yeah.
No. It was I think he was on the Giant Bomb. Will Smith was on Giant Bomb, and he said executable instead of executable.
But I know that
like you don't live that one down.
No.
The Xbox Live indie devs. This is a horribly titled article of like reveal some methods for boosting sales. Okay, this Gamasutra article, 2 methods of boosting sales was mentioned. 1, DLC Quest, how to boost in sales when they went on Steam.
That seems crazy, but
well, that makes sense.
It does.
You get a lot of sales on Steam. Some people say, like, you know what? If I can play this on my console, I'd rather play it on my console. So they don't play it on Steam; they play it on the console. That makes sense to me that would happen. But also not anything anybody can replicate. You know, that's like not okay. Yeah, what am I going to do with that information? Nothing. The other article goes on to say, Fortress Craft put in an unlockable item in Fortress Craft if you bought Steam Heroes.
I saw that.
Now I don't know how they did this. Because they've got to be faking this somehow, because from what I know of the limitations on Xbox Live indie games and the isolation that there are between storage, that you're not going to actually be able to verify on the console that the gamer actually paid for your other game. Now, maybe they patched in something in Steam Heroes that let them know that then they logged into a version of Fortress Craft that they unlock into admin mode, because I have known that has been there in the past, where there's modes you can enable in the game that's done by a single console or something.
Well, it seems like what you could do is, and I don't know what .NET functions are available, but it seems like you could, you know, take a bunch of user data, you know, hash it together, encrypt it or something, and do the same thing on both sides.
But I mean, it's not like
we have a code that
you
comes
have
up
to
the same
transfer that
way.
data between the 2 games.
Well, yeah, but like, no, what I mean is like, you log into Steam Heroes, it says put this code in to Fortress Craft. You open up Fortress Craft, type the code in.
There's a way. Yeah, you could do it that way. And then just hashing it based off of some console ID and user account name, and that would work. So maybe that's what they did. I didn't look into it, but that's a good way to solve that. But again, like, okay, so to make your game successful, launch a second game, which is a clone of a really popular indie game that the dude is cool about you posting off your ripoff game in their forums so that your game skyrockets in popularity and has millions of sales, then you can go back to your original game and boost your second game from your original game to boost the original game's sales. Like, you can't, that's useless information as well.
Yes.
You know, like that doesn't help.
To be successful, you must first be successful.
Correct. And yeah, so, also on Gamasutra, Gamasutra, they have a roundup. John Reinhardt did a roundup on indie distribution platforms of his game, which I think was Pitman, and he basically put it up on Indievania, Indie City, Little Indies, and Desura. Is that how you would say it?
I guess.
Desura?
Yeah, it pops up a lot. Like it's a Steam competitor.
I've seen it before. Yeah.
Like Indie Royale is pushed by them. Like they're doing Indie Royale because all the games are available on that platform. Long story short, I'll just give you the too long didn't read. Indievania, Indie City, Little Indies, not that popular, not a lot of traffic on those sites. Disraeli has some traffic to their site. Now, I don't think, like, you can go read the full article for all the individual pros and cons of each. He gets into what stats, what was available for the developers, how he could customize the profile. So it goes in a lot of depth. But I was just kind of looking like, give me the punchline, give me the sales, numbers, on that. So, and again, I think you could, obviously you can be on all of these. So, why not, be on all of these markets. But, so that's interesting because, obviously Steam is not an option, and if they don't allow you on Steam, you need to go through other services with that. So that link will be in our show notes. Alright, so I want to take a moment and talk, we talked about last week with the Dream Build Play contest and George Klingerman's post of like, hey, odds are good this is the last Dream Build Play XNA focused. There might be one, but the community will be so decimated by that point if there's no updates next year that who cares?
Right.
So there might be a 2013 Dream Build Play, but at that point it might be all Dream Build Play your Win Metro device, your ARM tablets and shit and whatever Microsoft is pushing at the time. So he had that idea, and I kind of had a similar ideas of like, hey, this is kind of the last thing, and we're pushing to get Captain Dubstep into Dream Build Play. And I contacted him, and of course Dave Voiles, who was on the podcast. Before he was on the podcast last time we had this conversation, about just setting up a site and just mark all the developers, all the old XNA developers, get together, last bin shindig. It doesn't matter what you enter. Like Dave Voiles is entering, cats playing Pong. And, it doesn't matter. Like, we're not, like, trying to make, amazing pieces of art here. We're trying to all enter XNA games because it's probably going to be the last time we get to do this. And let's, remember the good. And I also like the idea of going out on our own terms. If somebody writes the article about how the indie devs behaved as, kind of spun down, I'd rather the article be written, Microsoft basically let this service die, and these indie devs did what indie devs do, and that is they continue to make games to the bitter end,
Yeah. As opposed to, like,
a bunch of whiny, bitchy indie devs bitch that Microsoft didn't give enough love and attention, which that's what these article that gets written, regardless of the facts. The facts are too long didn't read, and so Joystick just writes the paragraph.
Well, there's more than
devs
one set
whining.
of. There's I don't want to say there's more than one set of facts, but there will be developers doing both.
There will be some, but the journalist will not take the time to find out what the issues are to go like, okay, there are some serious issues here, and this is why any developer that can leave the platform has left the platform, right?
Yeah.
Because we shouldn't have a constant influx of new developers only being on the platform. We should, at this point, have a lot of graybeards who have just released successful game after successful game on the platform. So anyway, taking with that, we built, and I say wait, it's GameMarx us. We set up a quick WordPress site called XNA Last Dance.com, where all the developers, you got them down here listed, who want to, sign up on the site, go to the register link over here, and, just register on the site, and I'll get an email when you register. It lets me know there and add you to the site. And we will funnel your blog through the site so that you can just subscribe to XNALastDance.com, RSS, and follow all the developers are there. And then I'm encouraging you, because the links go back to your site, not our site, so that people can leave comments and just, like, hey, yeah, I'm having this problem. Oh, well, I did this, and help each other through Dream Build Play. Of course, we also have the XNA forums as well. Make use of those. But, just watching each other's progress, seeing what each other, what we're doing on the site. You can see from the video, there's a big, massive countdown. We got about 11 weeks left to go on that to enter. So I'm gonna tweet a little bit more. I think push some news out there. Try to get. It'd be cool if we could get some developers who have left the platform to come back and enter something in Dream Build Play. Maybe an unfinished idea or a sequel to one of your games, or maybe something that doesn't take a whole lot of time, but just kind of participate, kind of just make it a newsworthy item. We will also, the Dream Build Play site is not very good about getting contact information to press, so we haven't finished fleshing it out yet, but we're going to have a nice little press landing page for each of the developers so that the press can find information about you and in an easier way and contact you. So if the press is interested about a game and they want to follow up with an interview or something like that, we're going to make it a little bit easier. Because Dave Boyle has commented to me in one of the threads that actually was hard to do last year when he was trying to set up interviews with a lot of the finalists, that it was just hard to find out information on these players. So that's kind of what we got going on there. Before I get to Kickstarter stuff, we didn't set aside a development topic this week.
No, we did not.
We just dove into this podcast with no topic. We just kind of didn't even.
I figured you had something in mind or something.
Yeah, so we got nothing at the moment. Captain Dubstep, I did an update for that. I finished getting our graphics in. We have decided to reach out to some local graphic artists to see if we can get somebody that can assist us, so that we can make that Dream Build Play deadline a reality. Graphics is the one thing that we're kind of shy on. That's an area we're not strong on.
Especially pixel art.
Especially, yes. So when I say graphics, it's not like the design, the box art, and concept, that kind of stuff. It's the actual game graphics. It's pixel art. It's pixel animation. That kind of 2D artwork and graphics. That's kind of our weakest link at the moment. I'm going to talk to Willie about putting into practice some of the marketing stuff so we can get spinning up on that front. Which I watched the Ben Kane YouTube video that I linked in last week's show notes, where Ben Kane talked about how to reach the gaming press. And Ben Kane wrote at Ars Technica. He was the gaming editor there, and now has moved on to Penny Arcade to do gaming news at Penny Arcade. And one of the things he talked about there is basically to butter up the publishers. He's like, I hate to admit that this works, but the journalists, but butter us up. Comment on our posts. Say yeah, I like that game too, or you got a good point here, or I think this way.
I was gonna say, put in a little more effort.
Put in some thoughts.
But yeah, I like that game too.
But find their articles, comment on their articles, shoot them emails, say hey, I read your article on this, and I read this article similar over here, and thought you might be interested, or something like that. And he's like, that works. It's no longer a cold call when you ask us to write on your game, because we kind of know you as a guy that kind of follows us, and he's like, that works. So we're gonna get Willie. I mean, that's kind of Willie's thing, to start doing that.
There's only so much one person can do, and still do the rest of it.
Well, that's what I mean. So yeah. Willie is our marketing guy, and right now he doesn't have much to do because we don't have much for him to show off.
Yeah.
Normally we would wait for him to have more to show off and then start running that chain, but I was like, no, you can totally do this now and then that paves the way for later. I think when we actually get to promoting the game, like, I'm gonna have a much more hands-on thing about like how we craft and making sites and destination pages and things like that for, we got to make it very cut and paste for any chance of an article getting written. But Ben pointed out, like, if you get hit on one, you probably get hit on all. Like, if it's worthy of news to Joystick, it's probably worthy of news to ours, And
I'm sure, they'll see each other covering it at some point.
It's a very narrow echo chamber. And, like, for that day's news, you're up there. He also talked about how you really don't want to be covered before your game's out as an indie. You're going to be forgotten about, right? So I know a lot of indie games want coverage before their game is out to build...
Strategically place that 15 minutes of fame where you need it.
Like, you're not trying to build it. You're going to get 15 minutes of fame to capitalize on that. So you need to be that game in that 15 minutes. Not coming soon. Because next day, there's going to be another indie game that's going to get mentioned. And that's where everybody's going to go then. It's like, if they can't take action immediately... you're going to lose those people. With dubstep, we're going to have some conversations with some graphic designers, see where that goes, flesh that out. But we're looking at 11 weeks, guys. If you're looking at Dreambuild Play, you have 11 weeks. I know it's like 80 days or something like that, but weeks to me is the more damning number. Because you kind of plan your week out of like, well, Monday through Friday, I work my day job. So obviously I'm not doing anything then. And then, I have the weekends to work. So you really got to meter out, like, and plan out those.
You get like X number of days a week that you can actually put.
Exactly.
Put some
and
work
you need to make sure that you're on task for that. So, I guess that counts as our gaming topic of the week. Get into the Kickstarter. It was a much better Kickstarter week this week than last week. I had a lot more stuff that I flagged. But first up, let's take a look at Guncraft. So these guys are almost funded. $800 to go. I'm going to refresh this. Let's see where they're at. They haven't moved. Okay, nobody is allowed to go home from this podcast until these guys are funded. They need $706 at this point. So, I really think they're gonna be fine at this point. In fact,
how long do they have?
Andy, just fucking write a check for $700 and get your money out of your, like at that point, that's what I would do. Can
you contribute to your own Kickstarter? I guess you can.
You have a wife. There are ways. And you don't even have to go through like Breaking Bad to get to them. So, by the way, I just watched the first episode of season 4, and holy fucking shit. Like, Breaking Bad, it's just an awesome, awesome show. If you have not watched it, it is worth going and picking up and watching. My regret's going to be when I get to the end of season 4 of having to wait for 5, but so far, there's been no, like,
shark jumping
or drifting, and it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to keep making things get worse. How can things continually get worse for 4 seasons now and not jump the shark or get something ridiculous, and not hit magic reset buttons. So I watched Weeds as well, which Weeds is a kind of similar thing. The husband dies, so the wife lives in a very affluent neighborhood, so she starts selling pot. And they kind of get to the end of Weeds. Weeds is good. Weeds is entertaining. Definitely the first 3 or 4 seasons of Weeds. I think it's up like 8 or something. I quit watching after that, but like 5 or 6 start to drift and all that. But they just get to a point where they just kind of like get to the end of the season and like reset it. Like, oh, well, all that got wrapped up, neat bow, and then we just started new lines, and it's like, what about the people she screwed over, or like they just go away? Like, you're selling drugs, there's gangsters involved, there's territory involved, like, vendettas, people don't forget this shit, people challenge you for turf and such. So I like that Breaking Bad, like, shit that happened in season 1 is still repercussions and stuff like that. Which is good, because they don't have a lot of episodes where they have to show you a flashback at the beginning of an episode that sets up how the new episode ends, of like, hold on a second, we're going to tell you about this thing you didn't know happened here so that we can use it now. They have done a couple of those, but not many, which is kind of a cheap writer's trick. Another Kickstarter I want to call out on is ECMO Gamers Podcast. I'll kick these guys off here. I think we're going to have these guys on the podcast, maybe not next week, the week following. Next week is my birthday.
And it will be Mike Rant.
I'll rant if I want to. Yes. These guys are starting up an MMO podcast and a podcast for I think they're going to try to launch 3 podcasts. And basically, they're just asking for $1,000 to buy the recording equipment. They got a film grad to come in and help them produce their Kickstarter video. And, it's just hey, they just, it's scrape up $1,000 so we can get our podcast going. And, if you go and you watch the video on these guys, they're a little rough in the video, being filmed and all that, kind of awkward. It's a recent film grad. Of course, I have my comments on how I would have produced the video for them. But you work into your podcast. You develop your rhythm. You get your flow over time. So I wouldn't worry about that. And if you can toss $5, they're only asking for $1,000 to buy the equipment needed to do the recording that they're going to do, and they're going to shoot live in a coffee house. Yeah, the podcast. So
just talking to them, I thought that was really cool. The idea that they want to be, they want to cover games, but they want to be more social. So I think locally, it's actually going to be kind of an event.
Yeah, and they got a lot of local gamers who play the same MMO. They play WoW. So that'd be an interesting thing. And just kind of supporting some of our local guys here, and giving them a shout out. And we'll have them on the show, hopefully in 2 weeks, if that works out for them. And the topic that week will be MMOs, which, we're not qualified to talk about it as indies, but, it's always a fun subject, to go on as gamers. Alright, Kickstarter this week. The first one that I have on the Kickstarter this week is, it's in the video games thing because it kind of is like a mobile app add-on. So this guy has basically got a pen and paper rule set that he's had for years that they use, and it's basically making the iPad that would be the DM's tool to play the game. So it's kind of a tabletop game going on at Arianos, I guess is how you say that. And I think that's really the gist of it. I didn't see much more than that standing out as far as being unique. But I thought that, that's a good idea because I've talked with, Dungeon Masters of D&D, and it's, yes, that's what you want, no D&D master that, he has all his PDFs of all the guides, so you can quickly pull them up and search for rules and things like that. I would like to be able to manage the game from the iPad, and it just seems like Wizards of the Coast is as always, fucking this shit up and not doing the obvious thing that everybody wants.
Well, I mean, that was going to be one of their
failed
goals.
Attempts at the subscription-based.
Yeah, they were going to do, at first it was a desktop app, then it became a Silverlight app, which I guess is a step up. Then they were going to have a game, like an online table, and so they've had some difficulty, it seems like, in the electronic area.
They need to really allow people to jump in. I know they're kind of protective of their brand, but
yeah,
you get more people playing, dude. You got to understand, it helps, not hurts. With that. So, I mean, that's kind of what I would want. Obviously, this guy has his own game and his own rules because he couldn't.
And that's rough. That's kind of rough to market. You're not only selling a set of tools, which everyone has an opinion on how they want it to work, but you're also selling
your own game. Yeah. With that. The next one up I got is Tempest Chronicle. So, this is an RPG, where the idea behind it is that, there's some Chrono Trigger type time travel thing going on, JRPG-ish, but the idea is that the game is episodic, released like a television show. So every Tuesday at 6 p.m., you get your next episode, and they'll have like a season's worth in the bag. So you could have social aspects around that, as far as like you play your bit, and then you get online, and everybody's at the same point because you just played the episode. So it's kind of like, you know, I watched the latest episode of Breaking Bad. Now I can get online and talk about it. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? What do you think? And
that's a good way of. I think that's a good way of balancing the social aspect, because the problem with a lot of games like WoW is if you're not the person who, if you're not either using Thoughtbot or, you know, the person who's spending, you know, 20 hours a day on this, you're kind of behind, and this forces everyone to stay on the same timeline. It's a really neat idea. It
is a neat idea. I like it. It's a JRPG, so, you know, I didn't click the back button out the gate on that one. But it is definitely interesting. And they've got $40,000 towards their $200,000 goal. Obviously, they got a lot of content to produce, so like they need to have a season in the can as they roll this out. So I like that idea, and hopefully they get to pull that off. And that's a very novel. That's again, if you're going to kickstart something, why are you special? I don't care if you're kickstarting a first-person shooter. I don't care if you're kickstarting a shoot 'em up. Why are you special that somebody should jump to it? And you know what? It's even a larger indie marketing question. Why are you special?
'Cause my mommy said
the next one blew up overnight. This is the Banner Saga. This is done by... These guys have some film credits. Come on, I'm following the game.
They have a lot about their studio. They have told you why they are special.
I think I saw the video for that, and the animation on that is just really amazing. Although it looks like a
they're animators. They are animators,
and it looks pretty.
Yeah, it looks like it's a tactical RPG, and I'm kind of turned off by that, but the animation is really awesome.
Yeah, so, and the thing basically is getting a story back in the game, you know, wanting to tell that story, and then also very inspired by the artwork of, I think they said Cinderella, or was it Snow White? Snow White.
Okay.
The classic Snow White, and wanting to bring that in the game. So a lot of these guys have like backgrounds in game design, worked at game studios, or they have backgrounds in animation. So I mean, they're going to be obviously able to pull it off. They're already 200% funded. I kind of watched it and like, yeah, I kind of like that idea too, what you're going for. So I backed it. That was one that I backed it. Because again, they had the nice $10, you get the game, $25, you kind of get the collector's edition, soundtrack, you know, type information, and stuff like that. So they hit the price points of an indie game. Like $10, that's a great level, to all that. So that one is Banner Saga. There. Let's see, what others did I find here? The last serious one that I've called out.
The last serious. How many?
I got a couple not so serious.
You've got to be afraid when the not so serious start.
The last serious was a tower defense that gets into some multiplayer stuff. So, like, as multiplayer, you could actually play like the invading horde being generated by units from your towers. So, at some point, it really breaks down, like, this is a real-time strategy. Like, this is, guys, this is StarCraft. Except simplified a little bit because it's tower defense. So, like, your guys are just going to march in a line, and you're just going to send a whole bunch of hordes. So
you still have to balance out the resources of generating those guys.
You do. So I think it might be a nice midway point between tower defense and StarCraft for people who like StarCraft is way micromanagement. This, since you're probably not directly controlling a lot of the troops and things like that, it might be a little bit more approachable because it's going to be simple. Like, you don't have to worry about the invading horses. You just crank them out.
Actually sounds easy enough that you could play it on your phone or whatever.
I believe, yes. So iPad, iPhone, Android seems to be the initial target. So yes, that's what they were going for.
Interesting.
With that, and I think it's obviously, you know, from the graphics, what you're seeing, there's a lot up there done to this already. So this one looks fairly interesting. I'd like to see these guys, you know, so call it out. That is City Conquest Tower Defense Evolved. And again, you know, I like the idea. It's like taking the tower defense genre and, you know, mixing it up a little bit by saying like, okay, so now you have, you know, territories to control and your multiplayer, you know, tower defense and that how that could work with that. All right. So this next one, and there's only $16 pledged on this. Is called Zeal Disputatum? Disputatum?
Disputatum is how I would say.
Yeah, I don't think there's any gameplay of this because I don't even think. Yeah. So they get this girl basically to just read off a cue card. And she creepily looks the entire thing like above the camera, which kind of weirds you out. On that, look into the camera, you know. Anyway, so the idea behind this game is that it actually would be a set of forums, okay, that you would kind of get points as you post on the forums. The topics of the forums are religious discussions and debates. The idea being that through this reward and point system, they can encourage intelligent debate on the internet about topics like religion.
Ha 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 ha!
Yes, I mean that just has epic fail written all over.
How do you get the points though? Like,
you get the points for making good arguments, and other people like, oh, that's a good argument, and I'm like
anything.
so it's all in the hands of the players.
Yes, you're
it's all in the
encouraging
hands of
the trolls to unite and defend their own. You know, it just,
Dude,
yeah.
Seriously, set up PHPBB. Just go simple. Because it's gonna...
It sounds like you guys have not gotten on the internet at all and seen how this shit works.
No. In fact, I think introducing a competitive element to it just makes things worse. Because you're gonna appeal to the people who debate not to understand the other side, but to win.
To win. I mean, you're gonna have people that come in, because like they basically said that we're gonna start off with agnostic, atheist, Baha...
I don't know what that is, but I've heard...
Buddhism, Christianity, Confucianism, Hindu, Islam, Jainism? Don't know what that one is.
Jainism, I've heard of it.
Judaism, Shinto, Schism, and Taoism. But, like, the fact that you're gonna have Islam in there...
It's gonna set all the Christians
and you get
off.
points... And you have Christianity?
Well, okay, what do you...
You're going to have the trolls come in and, you know, like, instigate the arguments between the two. And say some very racist things for points. And you'll have trolls that will give points for the very racist things.
Is it going to be organized into teams? Is it going to be...
Well, I imagine you're playing for your
forums?
team.
Are you going to self-identify as one?
I think your religion is your team, I guess.
Because... I mean, if you're just going with Christian, you're like, that's the fundies on up through, you know. Like,
I thought that too.
Low church, high
church. We need to break out, like, you know, you should not have your Baptists in with your Pentecostals. You know,
not gonna work.
That, you know, the Catholics and, you know, the Protestants. No, you don't know your history there. People will be nailing shit to walls in the forum, the trees in the forum.
Before you have other people go on the internet to better understand each other, you must better understand them.
You know what? I could save you the $1,000. Convince Joel Spolsky to set you up a Stack Exchange.
That's
there
brilliant.
You go. You even have achievements. Yeah.
There's probably no.
Now, remember though, if you get enough points on a Stack Exchange, you can edit other people's questions and answers. the database server crashes under the weight of the revisions.
It is like you're building the asylum that the inmates will take over.
Go to these pages on Wikipedia and look at how many times they've had to be locked, how many times the regions have been gone through. Yeah, this isn't it.
Wow.
So let's just say, as a Christian gamer, you're like, oh, well, obviously this is not going to work. Maybe then you could go and support the Unity mobile adventure game. This thing, for $50,000, just has some B-roll and some people talking about faith that don't even seem to be gamers.
This is not Unity 3D. Like this
this has nothing to do with Unity, the framework. These guys wouldn't even know what that is. They have some horrible static screenshots.
So
and
why?
then more. These basically look like pastors or somebody of like, we have to get the kids these days.
Oh, gosh.
And it's horrible. And it's basically a project that says we need $50,000 to hire the designer, the programmer, the guy who knows how to ship. You know, it's like everything.
So, well, you know who they're selling it to people who want to, like, use it to evangelize or whatever.
Yes.
So there you go.
Yeah. So if you want to support some evangelism on, God's OS, the iOS app market is what they're targeting, of course. Only the heathens would not have Apple.
Did they actually say God's OS?
They actually say iOS. They actually say it's game for iOS. They don't call it God's iOS, but it obviously is the chosen iOS. I mean, come on. The Unity mobile adventure game. That's the thing. They don't even outline the adventure. Like, what adventure are you playing? Are you playing the story of Isaac? Are you gonna have to kill your son because God asked you to? Are we gonna go Old Testament with this shit? That actually might be an interesting adventure game.
Play
the Old Testament. You're Samson.
Two questionable things.
The lioness fucks you over, there's your twist. What the twist at the end, New Testament, not so much, not as much interesting stuff going on in the New Testament, in my opinion.
Kind of cut and dried.
It is.
It's pretty cut and dried.
It's kind of just, happy-dovey, love everyone.
King James version, though. King James version is the best one because they make things more controversial.
Well, I mean, but it's basically love everyone, and we're persecuted because we love everyone, so just withstand the persecution and love everyone. And as opposed to the fire and brimstone of the original.
Unless Revelations. And then,
Yeah, the book of Revelations just kind of come in and goes, oh, by the way, if you don't do this, if you don't love everyone, we'll fuck you.
But if they do that, it will just become, Left Behind, the video game.
Yes. Did they make that?
There was an RTS. And it became
Left Behind was an RTS?
Yes. Okay.
Did it work like black and white?
I don't know. I never played it. I just remember reading about it. The issue, there were issues that came up because apparently you either had to, you as, the good guys had to either convert the UN people who've been, the UN is taken over by the Antichrist or whatever, and, you either have to convert them or kill them, I think, and it's kind of this, this is messed up.
Well, you got the Crusades to work with. They're not in the Bible, but you do have the Crusades.
No, it will probably be your standard Christian movie where is family friendly. Everything has to wrap up nicely in the end. Characters never do anything bad.
They think about it.
They think about it. Yes. Well, you can't repent from not doing,
Catholic, even the thought is a sin.
Well, yeah, okay. But you know what I mean. There's no, the characters are not dynamic. They're very flat. So
yes. So yeah. So there you go. If you want to get your Christian support on Kickstarter, give your 10. Go into your church. Go into church Sunday and say, I gave my 10% to the Unity mobile adventure game this week. That's where my 10% went.
I don't think most churches make a big deal about that unless you're a fundy church in which you hear it every week and
I've been the church that I've gone to, I've been where preachers have said, like, 10%. Never
Okay.
so bad as, like, the Simpsons preacher, where the Simpson preacher has that sermon of, like, it is before taxes, God gets his cut off the top, everyone, not after, you know? And how you look at your pay stub to find the top amount that you should be giving. But yeah, I've been to preachers where they have the sermon and explain the tithe.
We're not exactly sure what type of is it bad to just assume outright that these are fundamentalists?
Well, I can't say that, because when I was going to church, I don't think the fundamentalist movement was even nearly as big, or like these. I went to Baptist and Pentecostal.
Well, no, I mean
and,
these people are fundamentalists.
Oh, these.
Can we even say that? I haven't read this, so I'm just like spouting off the worst stereotypes I can think of.
You know, I can't say whether they are or are not. I kind of watched it and then lost it watching it, kind of cracking up, like believing, like, wow, this is on there. 14 backers, so you know they're a lot jumping on that. And that's that. I think that wraps up this week. I don't think I've got anything else. I'm gonna try to get that for next week. I'm gonna try to sit down and make a list of rants, and then just you know, it's my birthday, and that's what I'll do. We'll probably break out the alcohol. No more of this tea and coffee stuff that I've been having.
Just gonna set the microphone back, sit back and watch, because
yeah,
there's no stopping. There's no like, well, here's the counterpoint. I think you're exaggerating that. There's no like.
No, it's like it'll be in the spirit of like
Fox News,
a Hollywood roast, right? Of
O'Reilly,
like, everybody,
cut their mic.
Everything that I rant against, I do so because I love you. It's an honor.
Wow, that may not make it better. Like, you may think it makes it better. I don't think it's going to make it better.
It may not. Absolutely, it may not. So yeah, I may just have a little fun. Some of the stuff that I've said off air, maybe I'll say on air.
Oh, you may want to reconsider the alcohol thing, because
may want to have like a
Saturday morning. You're gonna go like, what did I say? Oh well, guess I can't talk to them anymore.
Hey everyone, thank you once again for tuning into the live show. You can catch the podcast. By the way, we post the recording of the live show. I mean, of course, we post the audio podcast, and thank you for listening to it. But we do post the actual video of the live podcast, so if you ever want to go and check, if we make some references to screenshots and things like that we show on the live, that gets posted to YouTube. It usually shows up on Sunday instead of Saturday, just because it takes a little bit more processing and time to upload. So I get the audio out there first, and then go ahead and upload that later. But thank you once again, everybody, for tuning in, and we will be back in a week.